As a kid, I was obsessed with digital watches. I loved them. The more functions they had, the more obsessed I became. I treated them a little bit like Swiss Army knives you could wear on your wrist, quite often like Swiss Army knives. It didn't matter what they did, and most of the functions were pretty useless. I just needed them to do lots and lots of stuff. That was the fascination. And a little while ago, I stumbled across a Casio Digital Watch, a very affordable digital watch. It cost me around £20 that just does an unbelievable amount of stuff, and it doesn't look like it should. Most of the face of this watch is an analog face and hands. There's just a tiny little LCD screen at the bottom. But the functionality on this watch is mind-blowing. It does more than, well, pretty much every other Casio watch you'll find that costs around the same amount of money. And in this video, I'm going to show you which Casio I'm talking about. Now, before I summarize the specifications and run through the extensive list of functions, I think we need to consider the way this watch looks because, well, I think there's a problem. I suspect most of you are a little bit like me. If you have a watch that does a lot of stuff, you want it to look like it does a lot of stuff. G-Shocks, for example, do you think they would be as popular as they are if they were streamlined and slick looking and, well, smooth, didn't have lots of vents and buttons and protruding bits on them? One of the reasons G-Shocks are awesome is, well, not only do they do a lot of stuff, but they look like they do a lot of stuff. And this watch looks, well, very sensible. It's not a bad looking watch. It's not a good looking watch either. In fact, yeah, I'm a little bit indifferent to the way it looks. It's just nice looking. It's a sort of sleeper watch. So I'm not expecting this watch to be particularly popular because, well, it sort of sits in a category almost on its own. It's full of functions, but also very sensible looking. And I just don't think those two things go together. But anyway, it doesn't stop this watch from representing incredible value for money, which I do think it does. The specifications are fantastic. And like I've already said, it does do a lot of stuff. And yeah, I think you'll be impressed. Let's do a quick run through of the specifications and dimensions to start with then. Like I've said, this watch cost me around £20 from Amazon. It is an Ana-Digi watch. It's made of resin. It is powered by a battery. The battery in this thing has a 10-year lifespan because, well, there's not a lot of digital stuff going on, so the battery doesn't actually have to do an awful lot. And it has 50 meters of water resistance. And of course, Herman's going to be testing this watch at the end of this video. It weighs 34 grams, 40 millimeters in diameter, 13.5 millimeters thick, 45.6 millimeters in length, and it will fit wrists sized 6.3 inches up to 9 inches. Now, what about the functions? It has analog time, digital time with seconds, digital day date. You can hack the seconds. It has 30 telememo entries, world time for 30 cities, daylight savings time function, a snooze alarm, 2 additional alarms, an hourly signal alarm, a countdown timer, a stopwatch. It also has lume on the analog dial and a light running all the way around the face of the watch. So for your £20, you get some strong specifications and a decent list of functions. Right, let's let Herman out, shall we? Right, Herman has just finished doing his thing and I made a mistake. I forgot that this is a 50-meter water-resistant watch, and I was trying to emulate the test that ISO gives watches if they want to claim the ISO 22810-2010 certification, which is just the standard water-resistant ISO certification. And for this watch to achieve that level of water resistance, it would need to withstand 10 minutes inside a water-filled chamber, with the pressure being the equivalent of the rating on the dial. But I put Herman up to 60 meters, not 50 meters. And the watch was in there for 10 minutes and I performed 2 tests. I put the watch inside of Herman, left it above the water, increased the pressure, dropped it in, released the pressure. There were a few bubbles. I wasn't entirely sure where they were coming from. And digital watches do have lots of little nooks and crannies, so I thought it was probably fine, but I just wanted to be absolutely sure. So I left the watch inside the water, increased the pressure again back up to the equivalent of 60 meters, left the watch in there for a decent amount of time, released the pressure, put the watch on a radiator, warmed it up and put the ice block on the watch, and there was a little bit of condensation, about as much as I would expect. So yeah, I then thought, well, let's take the case back off and have a look. And there was no evidence of any water getting under the case back or into the case. So as you would expect, you know, this watch is perfectly capable of going swimming with. And yeah, it's a Casio, you know. So a seriously impressive watch, fantastic specifications and a huge list of functions, very water resistant as you would expect, incredibly affordable as well. It is a Casio digital watch. But yeah, there's something missing, isn't there? The way it looks, that kid still lives inside of me. I still want watches that have lots of functions like this, yeah, to look like they have a lot of functions, and this one just looks too sensible, even for me, I'm afraid. So yeah, impressive, but yeah, not for me, this one.